someone ever told you, a manager, a tutor, a colleague, a well-meaning family member, that you need to focus, that you are spreading yourself too thin, and that you need to pick one thing and really commit to it? This episode is for you. Because right now, I am a senior lecturer in teacher education. I'm studying a master's in leadership and education, and I run a coaching practice that I am building right now. This podcast, a newsletter, a whole content business around the conversations I think we need to be having. And I did not choose between them. Now, what I want to talk about today is what that actually looks like. Not the highlight version, not the here's how I manage it all version, the real one, including what it cost, what it gave me, and the single shift in thinking that maybe the whole thing is actually possible. So stay with me. So someone said to me in a meeting, and I just want to make it clear that they wasn't being unkind. They were just generally trying to help me. And they said to me, Shana, you are brilliant, but I worry you are going to stretch yourself so thin that none of it gets the attention that it deserves. You need to pick a lane. And I remember sitting there nodding, because that's what you do, isn't it? You nod, you say yeah, and you say, yeah, I hear you. And then you go home and you think about it for, say, 3 days, and eventually you come back to the same conclusion you started with, which is, I do not think that is right. I don't think picking one lane is the answer. I think it's just the only one we've been actually taught. And today, I want to make that argument properly with receipts for why the advice, however well-intentioned it is answering the wrong question. Now, there's a specific kind of tired that comes from being multi-passionate in a world that is asking you to basically pick one lane and simplify yourself. Now, this thing isn't actually burnout. It's more like you are running on full and generally full, generally loving most of what you are actually doing. But here's this low level hum underneath it, all of it, that sounds like, am I doing any of this properly? Am I half assuming everything by refusing to whole ass one thing? If you know that feeling, and I think you do because you are here, and I want you to know that it is not a sign that you've got it all wrong. In fact, it's actually a sign that you are operating at the edge of a model that wasn't built for people like us. And this is a different problem entirely. I'll tell you what my Tuesday looked like last week, just so you know I'm not saying any of this from a comfortable distance. So I was up at 6 a.m. because I had a dissertation supervision meeting at 8. And this is my own dissertation, not my students. And I needed to have read back through my literature review before I could have a coherent conversation about it. By 9, I was up ready for a full day of meetings and tutorials with my trainee teachers. I had a coaching client at 5 p.m. that I've been looking forward to all week because I'm working with someone who is exactly in the position in their career where they're thinking of starting to change what they're doing, to click in place. And I love being in a room when that is actually happening. And then by 7 p.m., I was at my laptop writing this episode, this script, thinking about what I could actually say to you. Was it a lot? Yes. Was I tired by the end of it? Absolutely. But here's what I've learned to notice. I wasn't depleted, I wasn't full, and there is a clear difference between the two. The question I want us to sit with today isn't how do I manage all of this? The question has 1,000 answers, and most of them are about calendars and time blocking and meal prep. Now, the question I actually want us to explore is, what if the problem isn't that you are doing too much? What if the problem is that you are narrating it wrong? Okay, I think it's time we open the doors to our professional hours together. So, Let's get into it. So, here's what I want to name first because I think it really deserves having its own name. Multi passionate people are not failing to focus. They are being measured against a single track career model that was never designed for them. Now, the traditional career model, and I teach career development, so I'm saying this with some authority, is so linear. You pick a direction, you go deep, you accumulate this expertise, you move up. The model works brilliantly if your skills, your interests, and your sense of purpose all point at the same direction. But for a lot of us, especially women, and especially women in education, especially women who came into the career carrying multiple different identities and multiple competencies, that model, it just simply doesn't work for us. And when we have a model that doesn't fit, the temptation is to conclude that you are the problem. You tell yourself you are scattered and you tell yourself you need more discipline. You tell yourself that you were really serious, you'll be able to choose. But what if the model is the wrong thing for you? What if the diagnosis is off? Because here's what I've observed in my students, in my coaching clients, and also in myself. Multi passionate people are not less focused. They are focused on multiple things simultaneously, which is a different skill entirely. And one that has an enormous value if you stop apologizing for it long enough to develop it intentionally. So here's the reframe I want to offer you today, and it's a simple one. Stop asking, which one do I choose? Start asking, what does this version of me look like that holds all of this without apologizing? Now, that's a different question. It's not a time management question. It's not a productivity question. It is an identity question. And until we answer this at a level of identity, no calendar system in the world is going to make us feel like we've got it all together. Now, in coaching, and I work specifically with early career professionals who are trying to figure out who they are becoming and not just where they are right now or what they're doing. Now, one of the first things I work on with people is what I call the narrative problem. The narrative problem is this. Most of us describe our multiple interests and roles using the word also. I'm a teacher, but I also write. I'm a professional, but I also run a business on the side. I do my main job, but I also. That word also is doing something insidious. It is positioning one version of you as the real one and everything else as the bonus, the indulgence, the thing you squeeze in around the edges of your actual life. And when you narrate yourself in that specific way, other people hear it and that way too. They hear someone who is slightly embarrassed about having too many different interests. They hear someone who hasn't quite decided who they are right now. Someone who might need a gentle nudge towards just simplifying themselves. The word I actually want you to replace also with is because. Instead of saying I'm a lecturer and also a coach, I would say I am a lecturer because of that. I coach differently. Not I do my job, but I also build this business. Instead, we are saying I build this business because of what I know from doing my job. Just one word, and the whole energy changes. So let's talk about what's actually happening when you hold multiple roles at once, because I think you deserve a better explanation instead of you are just a bit all over the place. Now, there's a body of research, and this is a well established enough that I teach it all around. And it's something called cognitive flexibility. Now, this is the ability to shift your thinking across different contexts and adapt to new information and apply it, what you know in one area, to solve a problem in another. And research consistently shows that someone who's got cognitive flexibility is one of the strongest predictors of resilience at work. And it's not just performing well, it's actually about bouncing back when things get a little bit hard. Now, here's what I want you to sit with. What you've been calling scattered is what other people have been calling unfocused. This is cognitive flexibility in action. Every time you move between your roles, between your contexts, and between the different versions of what you do, your brain is doing something generally sophisticated. It's not a liability, it's actually a skill. And the people who are doing it have been so busy defending themselves against the pick a lane conversation, and that nobody ever stopped them to name it properly for themselves. And I want to name it for you today because here's what I see in the people I work with, my coaching clients, my trainee teachers, my students who are navigating their first years in a career and wondering why this version of themselves that feels most alive doesn't fit neatly in a job description anymore. Now, I had a coaching client, and I'm going to keep them anonymous, but she will know who she is. She came to me convinced that she needed to quit one of the things she was doing. She was an established teacher where she was running a storytelling content business on the side. She'd been told more than once that she needed to commit, that she couldn't be taken seriously as a teacher if she was caught half invested. Now, what we decided and found that we actually pulled it apart. And it was actually the total opposite. Her business was making her a better teacher. She was managing client relationships and handling feedback under pressure, under creative decisions with limited information, all of which were transferring directly into how she managed a classroom, how she responded to difficult parents, and how she thought on her feet. She wasn't half invested in teaching. She was bringing more into that than most people who had only ever done teaching. Now, the problem wasn't her capacity, it was her narrative. She couldn't articulate the connection, so everyone around her filled the silence with the simplest available interpretation that distracted her. And I know that pattern immediately because I've lived it too. When I was building my own coaching practice alongside my lecturing role, I spent a long time describing it and apologetically like it was a side project I hadn't grown out of. And the moment I stopped doing that, the moment I could say confidently and clearly that each thing I do because it makes me sharper in everything else, I started to have a clearer story. And that is what cognitive flexibility looks like in real life. It doesn't look like someone who can't focus. It looks like someone who moves fluidly between contexts and brings something from each, one back to the others. And the research identifies that as a strength. And I guess that's not news to you, I suspect, but it's just that nobody handed you the language about it before. So, you've been defending yourself against a diagnosis that was wrong. The question was never whether you could focus. The question was whether the people around you had the framework to understand what you were actually doing. They didn't, but you do now. Right. Here's your one thing this week, and it's not a complicated one. This week, I would like you to write down 3 things you do or what you want to do that other people think are incompatible. They don't have to be things that you are currently doing in your career, they can be roles, interests, identities, skills. Anything that lives in you that you've been made to feel you need to choose between them. Then you're going to write one sentence that connects them all. And not to explain them, but not to justify them. What connects them? The sentence that starts with, I am interested in, or I keep coming back to, or everything I do is really about. Now, that sentence is the beginning of your full character story. And once you've got it, you will be surprised how differently you start to present yourself, even in interviews, in introductions with new people, and even in your own head at 11 p.m. when you are wondering if you are doing this right. You are. You are just doing it in a way that doesn't have a clear name yet. Now is your time to give it one. Now, before you go, this week, I want to know, has anyone ever told you to pick a lane? And what did they say about it? And what did you actually say to make them believe? Come and tell me in the comments or reply to this week's newsletter. And these conversations are generally the best part of building this. Don't forget to send this to someone who really needs it and to subscribe so you don't miss any of our sessions. I can't wait to see you next week.